It is a Tuesday evening. Supper is done, the casserole is out on the counter, and you bend down to slide the oven rack back in. That is when you catch it. The smell first. That old burnt grease smell that has been living in there for months. And then you see it. The black splatter on the sidewalls. The brown glaze baked hard onto the oven floor. The mess you have been pretending is not there since before Easter. You close the door and tell yourself tomorrow. Tomorrow you will deal with it. And tomorrow, if you do what most people do, you will stand in the cleaning aisle at Walmart and pick up a can of Easy Off Heavy Duty for $5.48. You will spray it in, glove up, open the windows, try not to breathe the fumes, scrub until your arm is tired, and 6 months from now you will be standing in that same aisle buying the same can. The heavy-duty label still lists sodium hydroxide, lye, and it warns you plain that it can burn your eyes and your skin. $5.50, and you are doing it again. Now here is the turn. There is a way, an old way, quiet and plain, that uses a shallow bowl with a few cents worth of household ammonia in a cold oven overnight. You do nothing. The fumes do the loosening while you sleep. And in the morning, the mess wipes instead of fights. 13 cents a treatment. GE still recommends it to their own customers. And the reason most families were never taught it is the simplest reason there is. Nobody earns a living teaching you to use what you already have. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to set it up, what it costs, what it saves, and where it does and does not work. You will have the figures, you will have the steps, and you will not need that can again. I want to be straight with you before I go further. You have been told, most of your life, that cleaning a dirty oven means buying a specialty aerosol can off the cleaning aisle, spraying it inside a hot box, opening every window, and hoping the fumes from that can do not burn your eyes before the grease gives up. And then you scrub. And then, 4 or 5 months later, the oven is ugly again, and you buy another can. That can runs about $5.48 right now at Walmart. The heavy-duty version still lists sodium hydroxide on the label, that is, lye, and the can itself warns you it can burn eyes and skin. You are paying $5.50 for a chemical fight, and you are doing it over and over. Here is what I want you to know. There is an older way, plain household ammonia, a shallow bowl, a cold oven, and one night of doing nothing that loosens most of the ugly baked-on grease while you sleep. GE, the appliance manufacturer, still tells its own customers to do exactly this. The whole treatment costs about 13 cents. And the reason you were never taught it is the plainest reason there is. A family that already owns the bowl and only needs a few ounces of ammonia is not a family anybody can sell much of anything to. By the end of this video, you will understand why this works. You will know exactly how to set it up and what not to do. You will know what it truly costs and what it saves. And you will be honest with yourself about where it works strongly and where it has limits. That is what I am here to give you, the plain truth, with the figures to back it. I am Dot Perkins, and I grew up in a Kansas kitchen where my mother kept 6 of us fed and the whole house clean on next to nothing. She was not a woman who bought a different bottle for every mess. If something greasy needed cleaning, she reached first for whatever plain staple already lived in the house. And she understood the difference between a thing that truly works and a thing that just came in prettier packaging. I am passing this one on in that same spirit, not because it is magic and not because it is fashionable, but because it is cheaper than what people are paying now, and done carefully, it still works. Now, before I show you what to do, I need you to understand why it works, because that is what tells you what to expect and what not to expect. And that matters, because there is a great deal of bad advice floating around the internet about this method, and some of it will get you disappointed, and some of it could get you hurt. Household ammonia is ammonia gas dissolved in water. The kind you buy at the store is roughly 5 to 10% ammonia in water. That is what New Mexico State University describes in their household cleaning guidance, and they still name it as a cleaner for kitchen range burners and ovens. It is alkaline, which means it is on the opposite end of the scale from an acid like vinegar. And that matters because baked-on oven grease is not just sitting loose on the surface. It has dried. It has cooked. It has bonded to that enamel or porcelain liner the way dried paint bonds to a wall. You cannot just wipe it because it is stuck. Here is what happens when you put a shallow bowl of ammonia in a closed, cold oven and leave it overnight. The ammonia gives off fumes, that is its nature, and those fumes fill the closed space. Over hours, those alkaline fumes sit with the baked-on grease film and soften it. GE's own wording is plain and useful. The fumes help loosen burned-on grease and food. Think of it the way you would think of soaking a dirty casserole dish in hot water overnight. You are not scrubbing. You are letting time and chemistry do the loosening, so that when you come back in the morning, the fight is mostly over. The difference is that here, the soak is vapor in a closed box, not water in a sink. Now listen, this is important. That means the method works by loosening and softening, not by dissolving everything to nothing. The internet loves to show a miraculous before and after where a filthy oven becomes a showroom in one pass with zero effort. That is not honest. What the ammonia fumes do is take a job that would have been an hour of hard scrubbing and turn most of it into wiping. You will still wipe. You may still use a non-abrasive pad on a stubborn patch or two, but you are finishing, not starting from scratch, and that is a real and worthwhile difference. If someone tells you this requires zero scrubbing and zero effort, they are selling you a feeling, not giving you the truth. If you are the kind of person who wants more of the old ways that actually keep money in your pocket, the real methods, honestly explained, with the figures right there where you can see them, subscribe to this channel. I put one of these out regularly, and every single one is built the same way. The truth, the price, and the plain reason it works. Now let me show you exactly how to do this. Here is what you need, and I will put a price on every bit of it. First, plain, clear household ammonia, not the sudsy kind and preferably unscented. A 64-ounce bottle of great value clear ammonia at Walmart is $2.12 right now. You will use 1/2 cup per treatment, which means that bottle gives you 16 treatments. The ammonia for one treatment costs about 13 cents. If you prefer to use a full cup, and I will explain the variant that calls for that in a moment, the cost is about 27 cents. Second, a shallow glass or ceramic bowl. If you do not have one in the cupboard already, Dollar Tree sells a glass bowl for $1.50. This is reusable. You are not throwing it away. Third, a microfiber cloth. Dollar Tree, about $1.50. Also reusable. Fourth, a pair of cleaning gloves, disposable or reusable, your choice, about $1.50 at Dollar Tree. That is your full supply list if you are starting from nothing. $2.12 for the ammonia, $1.50 for the bowl, $1.50 for the cloth, $1.50 for the gloves. That is $6.62, and most of that is reusable. The consumable, the ammonia itself, is 13 cents a treatment. Now, what to avoid. Do not use sudsy ammonia. Do not mix the ammonia with any other cleaner, not bleach, not vinegar, not a spray bottle of something else. The Centers for Disease Control is plain about this. Ammonia mixed with bleach releases a highly toxic gas. New Mexico State University goes further and warns against mixing household chemicals generally. And do not use abrasive tools like pumice stone on the oven liner. I have seen this recommended online, and household experts have warned that pumice can damage porcelain or painted oven surfaces. A microfiber cloth or a soft, non-abrasive pad is all you need. Here are the steps, and I want you to follow them in order. Step 1. The oven must be off and cool. Not warm, not recently used, cold. Remove any loose crumbs or debris, and take out the racks if you want to clean them separately. GE is explicit about this. Cold oven, shallow glass or pottery container, overnight. Step 2. Measure 1/2 cup of plain household ammonia and pour it into the shallow bowl. That is the conservative, manufacturer-backed amount. Set the bowl on the middle rack or the oven floor, wherever it sits level and will not tip. Now, there is a popular variant you will see online, and I want to be honest about it. Some sources place a separate dish of hot water on the lower rack and a bowl with up to 1 cup of ammonia on the upper rack, then close the door. The idea is that the steam from the hot water helps the ammonia fumes circulate. That is a reasonable add-on, and if you want to try it, it will not hurt anything. But I am keeping my main instruction at 1/2 cup of ammonia in a cold oven because that is the method backed by GE's own published guidance. The hot water pan is optional support, not the core of the method. Step 3. Close the oven door and leave it overnight. This is not a 15-minute trick. The whole point is time. The fumes need hours to sit with that baked-on grease and do their work. Go to bed. Let it be. Step 4, and this is the part most folks rush past, so I want you to hear me. In the morning, before you touch anything inside that oven, open your kitchen windows first. Then open the oven door and step back. Give it several minutes to air out. The CDC says ammonia can hurt your eyes, throat, lungs, and skin at higher exposure levels. And if there is a release of household ammonia indoors, their guidance is to open windows and doors and leave the area until the gas has cleared. You are not dealing with dangerous concentrations from a 1/2 cup in a sealed box, but the smell will be strong, and the smart thing is to let fresh air move through before you put your face near that oven. Step 5. Put your gloves on. Lift the bowl out carefully. Do not slosh it. If you used the hot water pan, remove that too. Set them aside. Step 6. Take your damp microfiber cloth and start wiping. This is where the old method earns its keep. The ordinary brown grease film, the splatter on the sidewalls, the baked-on food on the oven floor, most of it should smear and lift rather than fight you. You are finishing a job the fumes already started. For stubborn patches, and there may be a few, especially in a long-neglected oven, a non-abrasive pad with a little warm water will help. You can also dampen the pad with some of the saved ammonia solution, diluted. But the script is honest. Do not expect every spot to vanish with a single wipe. Very heavy buildup may need a second overnight treatment. That is still 13 cents and another night of patience, not another $5 can. Step 7. Once the grime is up, wipe the inside of the oven with plain water, a clean damp cloth, wrung out, going over every surface until the residue and the ammonia smell are down. Then dry it with a clean cloth. The oven should smell normal before you preheat it for the next meal. Now let me say something plain about the wrong approach, because there is a great deal of bad advice on this one. The internet loves turning a simple method into a spectacle. I have seen people use half a bottle of ammonia, layer it with other sprays, go in with scrapers and pumice, and then wonder why their oven liner is scratched or why the smell will not leave. More chemicals is not smarter. A scraper on enamel is not careful. And the worst mistake of all is spraying bleach or some other cleaner into a residue you have not fully wiped out after an ammonia treatment. Ammonia and bleach make a toxic gas. Plain and simple. One method, done right, followed by a water wipe. That is all. Now I want to pause here and say something about where this comes from, because I think it matters. Plain household ammonia was part of the old practical cleaning cupboard long before the modern cleaning aisle got as crowded as it is now. Ammonia-based stove cleaning advice shows up in older household writing and mid-century newspaper columns. I have seen references going back to at least the 1940s. I want to be honest. I did not verify that this exact overnight closed oven setup was a documented Depression-era standard in the form I just showed you. What I can tell you truthfully is that household ammonia was a known kitchen cleaning staple in my mother's time and before, and that using its fumes to cut grease around a stove and oven is old, practical wisdom, not something the internet invented. The modern version adapts that wisdom to the oven you have now. You are not learning a new method. You are recovering an old one, adapted honestly, and there is nothing wrong with saying so plainly. Now, once you have done this once and seen how it works, the habit that keeps the saving going is simple. Do not wait until the oven is a disaster. GE's own maintenance guidance says to wipe the oven regularly with mild soap and water, especially after messy roasting or baking. A quick wipe when the splatter is fresh takes 2 minutes and prevents the ugly buildup that makes people reach for a $5 can 3 months later. If your oven has a built-in steam clean cycle, some newer models do, manufacturers position that for light, routine soil. Use it between big cleanings. And reserve the overnight ammonia treatment for the ugly jobs, the ones where the grease has gotten away from you. That gives you a prevention ladder. Wipe early, steam clean when the mess is fresh, and save the ammonia overnight for the heavy work. The cost of prevention is a damp cloth and 2 minutes. The cost of neglect is either the ammonia treatment, which is still cheap, or another trip to the cleaning aisle. Now, I want to be honest about what this method does and what it does not do, because your trust matters more to me than a strong claim. This works strongly on the kind of baked-on grease and food residue most people are dealing with. The brown film on the oven walls, the splatter from a casserole or a roast, the ordinary grime of a kitchen that has been cooking real meals for a few months. One overnight treatment, and most of that wipes up the next morning with modest effort. It works less well on extreme black carbon crust, the kind that has been building for years without any cleaning at all, and it will not fix damaged enamel, rust, or a liner that is already pitted and worn. For truly severe cases, you may need a second or even a third overnight round, or the residue may be beyond what fumes alone can soften. It does not work on mechanical problems. If the oven smells bad because of a gas issue, or if the heating element is failing, or if the door seal is shot, no amount of ammonia in a bowl fixes that. Call a professional. And if your oven's owner's manual specifically forbids this method, or if you have a special self-cleaning only liner with its own instructions, follow what the manual says. GE itself points customers back to the owner's manual for model-specific guidance. One more honest limit. If you have breathing sensitivity, asthma, COPD, or any condition that makes strong fumes a risk, this may not be the method for you, especially if you cannot ventilate the kitchen well. A method is only a good deal if it is safe for the person using it. This brings me to the safety talk, and I will be plain. Ammonia is useful, but it is not gentle. The CDC classifies it as toxic. It can hurt your eyes, your skin, your throat, and your lungs. In a well-ventilated kitchen, after one overnight treatment with a half cup, the exposure is manageable, but you must ventilate before you get close, you must wear gloves, and you must never, ever mix ammonia with bleach. That combination produces chloramine gas, and it can make you very sick. Do not mix ammonia with any other household cleaner. Not vinegar, not a spray bottle of all-purpose cleaner, not anything. If the oven was recently treated with a different product and you have not fully wiped it out, do a complete water wipe before you put ammonia in there. Do not layer chemicals onto mystery residue. If you have an older standing pilot gas range or a model with special cleaning instructions, check your manual first. And keep children and pets out of the kitchen from the time you place the bowl until the oven is fully aired out the next morning. This is simple caution, the kind the careful old folks practiced without making a fuss about it. Now I want to take a moment, because here is where it all comes together. Look at what we have walked through. You take a cold oven, a shallow bowl with a half cup of plain ammonia, 13 cents worth. Set it inside, close the door, and go to bed. The fumes do the loosening while you sleep. In the morning, you ventilate, glove up, and wipe. The ordinary baked-on mess lifts without a fight. Stubborn spots get a second pass with a soft pad. You rinse with water, dry, and you are done. The method is backed by GE's own published guidance. The mechanism is straightforward. Alkaline fumes softening greasy residue over hours. And the total cost of the treatment is about 13 cents if you already have a bowl and a cloth. The honest math is plain. Let me lay it out. If you are starting from scratch and buying everything new, a 64-ounce bottle of ammonia at $2.12, a glass bowl at $1.50, a microfiber cloth at $1.50, and gloves at $1.50, your first run costs about $6.62. That is more than the $5.48 can, and I will not pretend otherwise. But here is where the numbers turn. Your second treatment costs 13 cents. Your third costs 13 cents. Your fourth costs 13 cents. That bottle of ammonia holds 16 treatments. By the time you have cleaned your oven 4 times, once a quarter, say, which is reasonable, you have spent about $7.01 total. 4 cans of Easy Off at $5.48 each would have cost you $21.92. You have kept about $15, and the gap only grows from there, because the ammonia bottle still has 12 treatments left in it, and the bowl, the cloth, and the gloves are still in your cupboard. On a fixed income, that is real money, and it compounds every time you do not buy the next can. There is no conspiracy here. It is plainer than that. A family that already owns the bowl and the rag and only needs 13 cents of ammonia every few months is not a very profitable family. A family that believes every ugly kitchen job needs its own specialty aerosol can, that family is profitable. There is no money in teaching someone to do what a few ounces of ammonia can do overnight. There is a great deal of money in selling a $5.48 can 4 times a year, forever. So the simple old method sits quiet, and most families keep paying. You do not have to be one of them. This is not a system anyone coordinated. It is just the way things work when something costs almost nothing and nobody has a reason to teach it. This was never really about one dirty oven. It is about whether a home depends on the store for every miserable little job, or whether the people in it remember a few plain staples and a few plain skills. My mother did not need an aisle full of specialty bottles, and she did not need someone else's formula sprayed inside her oven. She needed what she already had, and she needed to know how to use it. That is what I am handing you. Not a product, not a brand, just the knowing. A home that depends on you and not the store is a home that owes nobody. Here is what I want you to do. Tonight, after supper, check your oven's owner's manual and make sure it does not forbid this method. Confirm the oven is off and cool. This week, pick up a bottle of plain, clear ammonia if you do not already have one, $2.12, and do 1 overnight treatment with a half cup, full ventilation, gloves on, and a careful wipe in the morning. This month, stop buying the next can of oven cleaner unless your manual specifically requires something different. This season, get in the habit of wiping fresh splatters when they happen, before they bake on, so you do not need a rescue job every few months. That is the prevention ladder, and the cost of it is a damp cloth and 2 minutes of your time after a messy roast. Now, I have 2 things I want to hear from you, and I mean it. First, tell me what kitchen mess you are most tired of paying to fight. The splatters, the stovetop, the grease behind the range. Which one costs you the most money or the most frustration? And second, if your mother or your grandmother had an old stove or oven method we did not cover today, the thing she did with salt or vinegar or something I have never heard of, write it down in the comments. These little inherited household methods disappear when nobody writes them down, and I read every single one. If this is the kind of teaching you want, the old ways, honestly shown, with the price on everything and the truth about what works, subscribe because next time we are going after the same principle with a different problem. The cheap old household answer to greasy oven racks and stove grates, without grinding your knuckles off. Same plain staples, same real savings, same honest scope. Until then, check that manual, set out the bowl tonight, let the fumes do what they have always done, and wipe in the morning instead of fighting. That is how the careful old folks kept a kitchen clean on almost nothing. That is how it is still done in any home that remembers.